Welcome, everybody. This is Jared Shulhanek, and I'm here with one of my colleagues. We'll get to the introductions here in just a bit, but our presentation today is all about communications with your members. A lot of our chapters communicate in many different ways. It might be print, might be digital, might be social. We're here to talk about all of those things under that umbrella and give you some pointers on how you can do it better, how you can be more effective. So with that, I'm going to move on to our introductions. As I said, I'm Jared Shulhanek. I'm the Senior Marketing and Communications Manager at APWA, and I've got with me...
I'm Abigail Grossman, and I'm the Marketing Coordinator.
Welcome, welcome, welcome. And just so everybody knows at home, they should be seeing an awesome waving GIF there, but we're having technical difficulties, so we'll just have to go with a picture of a cute bear instead. Moving on to our next slide here, this is the exact presentation actually that we presented at the 2019 Chapter Leadership Training meeting in February here in APWA at Kansas City. The very first thing I ask in all my presentations is, what do you want? What do you hope to get out of this? So you'll see a lot of our presentation here was very discussional, very conversational with the folks that we had in the room. Obviously, we don't have a lot of that with a recorded session, so we'll try to relay some of that information as we remember it, and some of it we might gloss over a little bit more just because there's not a lot of discussion factor going on. But one of the things we heard from our chapters the most is, how do we get on with email? What's the best practices? What is the best way for us to be able to reach out to our members, and what are the tools that are available? It kind of comes down to that saying, a lot of people just don't know what they don't know. A lot of people are in these positions being asked to do something they maybe have never done before, or maybe they haven't done in a while. Technology has changed a lot, and we're here to kind of give you a guide on it. So with that, Abigail's going to kick us off here.
Why members join APWA? So I'm sure there are a variety of reasons out there, but we've heard from a chapter and member perspective that some main reasons for why they join APWA is for networking opportunities, professional development opportunities, training content, some of the training opportunities we provide along with e-learning and webinars and things like that. We also asked the room what are some of the other reasons why they may join APWA. And they said that this was a pretty good summary, and that a lot of them just wanted, to learn from each other and to network and to kind of have a place they could go with similar like-minded people where they could share knowledge and information.
Yeah, exactly. And I think one of the other few items were some of those community building aspects or philanthropic endeavors that the chapters go through. Those were also some big reasons for members joining. Really wanted to be part of something bigger than maybe, themselves or even their primary employer. So we're going to start here with the importance of communication. So obviously, from a chapter perspective, why is it important, to really pay attention and key in on how you're communicating and what you're saying and how you're saying it? You want to grow and maintain your chapter. That's a primary goal for every one of our chapters. We want it to be healthy, have a thriving membership that's very, very engaged on not only a leadership level but a membership level or a member level. That kind of leads into that second bullet point there, the strengthen your relationships with your members. It's not just, you from a leadership standpoint kind of disseminating information, right? You're actually building, these are your colleagues, these are your peers. You're looking to really strengthen relationships with the people that you hope to see every day and work with every day. Obviously, this is outside of most of our primary employment when it comes to the chapters. These are things that you guys are doing because you have a passion for it, because you love what you do and the people that you do it with. So this is really an opportunity in how you handle your communications on how much you can strengthen and really build those relationships with your colleagues and members. Another item, obviously, with communication that kind of feeds into marketing, right? You want to drive attendance for those chapter events, whether it's a simple lunch and learn where you're, playing a recording of a webinar, or it's a major chapter conference. Some of our chapters have more than 1,000 people come into these conferences, and it's a statewide or even region-wide thing. So that's a huge asset if you're able to communicate properly and efficiently and say what it is that you want to say and how you want to say it. You can also kind of take a look, your chapter events. Obviously, sometimes they fall into that next bullet point, revenues and fundraising, right? If you can't communicate properly, you're probably not going to drive a lot of money, get a lot of signups or registrations for your event, or be good at fundraising, right? You gotta be able to tell people why it's important that they spend their money with you if that's what you're asking them to do. What benefit are they getting out of it? Or what benefit are they going towards? Um, and then that last one's just kind of a coverall. We're looking to deliver content. It might be, tips and tricks, or it might be a reminder or a calendar or an upcoming event. What you're looking to do on a chapter level is build not just a membership for somebody that is joining your chapter. You're looking to build experiences with them. If I'm looking back a year from now, after being an APWA member, if I've sat in on a couple webinars, and that's about it. And I've just kind of paid attention to some of the emails that have come through. Chances are, I might be split on how I feel about my experience there. But if I'm building quality experience, with individual members, and I am doing everything I can to make sure the quality is there, the communication is there, I think you're going to see a lot more in how that comes out on the retention end, at the end of each year when you're looking at your membership numbers.
Print versus digital. So at the conference, we asked a room full of 30, 40 members, raise your hand how many of you still use print for your marketing, how many use digital. We actually had a few members raise their hand for print, and that's because mostly they're working on their magazine. So I think a lot of people know that we're moving towards digital for marketing, but there are still organizations and companies out there using their magazine and have a few professionals who work on that.
Yeah, and that's the thing to keep in mind here on this presentation is, that those few chapters that operate their own magazine or maybe are heavily involved in the print side of communications, chances are you've either got it in the budget and you're paying some great professionals a good wage to, good design. Good design and good print doesn't come cheap, I think is the saying. Chances are you've got a group of people that are really good at what they do and you're already working with them. You don't need a lot of tips and tricks from us. So we're going to focus primarily on digital here. It's kind of that lowest common denominator for all of our chapters. It's the lowest cost, it's the easiest to enter, it's the easiest to improve at, and ultimately it's what most of your members are consuming, on the chapter level, is that digital media and digital communications. So our focus will be primarily on that. And that leads us right into every single chapter's number one tool. That number one tool is email. If you ask, I think the most recent stats and studies, forgive me, I do not remember exactly where I saw this, but most business professionals, 70% of them say email is their preferred method of communication. Let's take that as our lead here. We've got a lot of really low cost, really flexible, and high design options available at your fingertips, no matter if you're a big chapter or a small chapter. And we can really kind of help you focus on what it is you can do to get better utilizing those tools. So that's going to take us into just a list of some email best practices. We've got 2 slides here. Really, if you want to use this as a checklist, great. Use this as a checklist. Every time you send out an email, run through this list and see how many of them you mark off, and try to do one more next time, or try to get better, 1 month to the following month on how many of these you're able to hit. And obviously, not every single one of your communications, not every single one of your emails is going to tick every box here, but this is a very good starting point at kind of how to optimize, how to get more eyeballs on what it is that you're sending, and be more effective in communicating whatever it is that you're trying to say. So the very first thing you'll see there is use images and video everywhere you can. That is the biggest thing that I can tell any chapter, any marketer, period, that's sending out emails. The standard is if you include an image, and this is let's picture 3 emails. You have one email that's text only. Okay, that's your baseline. If you include images in that email, you can almost guarantee you're going to see at least a 25% open rate. So that means 25% more of your audience are just going to open your email. That's the gateway, right? You need to get them opening your email before they can actually read it. So anything you can do to increase that open rate, it's in your best interest. So images, about a quarter percent or a quarter more open rates. Then you see that next line is a big jaw dropper, videos. If you've got videos, and I encourage, with smartphones these days, everybody can film video, and YouTube accounts are free to host your video. If you can film a video and you can place that in your email, you're looking at a 50% open rate. You're opening up half again, your total audience for that communication that it is that you're trying to send. So anytime you can incorporate those two things, it's definitely in your best interest.
And then spend time writing a quality subject line. A lot of the time we focus so much on the body of the email and, getting all the content into the paragraphs of the email. And, I've spent lots of time just perfecting it in every way I can, but we forget that the subject line is what people see in their inbox. That's what they're going to click on first. And so really spending time, I would say spending just as much time, if not more, working on a quality subject line, figuring out, do I want to include a list of information? Do I want to just come up with a short tagline to grab someone's attention? I think that the subject line is really going to grab the person's attention and make them want to click or spam that email. So it's just as important as the information that you're putting into your email.
Yeah, no, I'm going to segue a little story time here. Abigail's been with us here for 3 to 4 months. She's handling primarily most of our outgoing email communications for APWA National. First time we were sitting down talking about emails just in general, kind of relayed the old standby that you should spend as much time writing a quality subject line as you do on the entire rest of the email. I think her jaw dropped and went right through the table, and she looked at me like I was crazy. But it really, obviously you don't have to, if you're spending an hour on your email, you don't have to spend an hour on a subject line, but it really is just kind of a signifier, like spend some time. Don't just leave it as an afterthought. It's really, that's the first thing people see when it's sitting in their inbox. And if you don't have a good subject line, you didn't spend a lot of time really thinking about what it is that you want to say as that first impression, it's going to have an effect. So that last bullet point on this slide is to time it right. So Tuesday through Thursday is going to be your best window during the week to send out an email. And if you want to get even more specific, anytime around noon. Right, noon is kind of your high point for opens and click-throughs and kind of that general engagement. As you get farther away from noon, that bell curve tends to get lower, whether it's in the morning or it's in the evening. And then I've got a kind of a tricky one here. So I think everybody's probably heard at one point or another, don't send emails on Sunday. Don't send emails on the weekend in general. That's kind of flipped on its head with digital communications becoming so prevalent in people's everyday lives. Everybody, I'm sure 90% of us, first thing you do within the first hour of you waking up is probably take a peek at your email, whether it's your work email or your personal email. You're taking a look at that when you're sitting at home, whether it's the evening or the weekends. You're probably scrolling through an email, looking at social media, engaging with friends, whatever it happens to be. I think people have gotten a lot more used to consuming media, especially the digital format, outside of like their typical working hours. And we're seeing that a lot just on social media in a business environment. So we've actually done some tests of that from APWA, and every audience is going to be different. I encourage you to test it out. When we tested it out, we didn't see a drop at all. We saw the same amount of open rates, the same amount of click-through rates. We didn't see any kind of precipitous drop that you always were worried about and kind of stayed completely away from Saturday or Sunday. We did see that Sunday worked better than Saturday, just by a slight margin. But give it a shot with your, especially if it's not a super deadline-focused email, or digital communication, try it out. Your audience might take to it like crazy, and absolutely you might find that every Sunday that's your best time. Anytime you have something out, send it on Sunday. Or you might say, "Whoa, nobody opened that. Let's never do that again." But at least you'll know. And most of the marketers that you see out there, they have not seen those huge drops that they've kind of always been warned about.
Jared, do you want to go over keeping up with your lists? I know you've had some experience with that.
Absolutely, yeah. Keeping up with your lists from a chapter level, every single one of our chapters has a continuously updated list available to them through the chapter leader resources area on the APWA website. That area, when you're sending out a list, it is super important that you always make sure, I think sometimes we get a little complacent, right? Okay, I just loaded a list last week. I don't need to, download a new one and then upload it to my email tool again this week. Well, it's in your best interest that you do. You want to make sure that anybody, you're honoring anybody that might have unsubscribed from your list. But also from a chapter perspective, you might have had 5 new people, join your membership roster there. You don't want to be missing out sending out communications to them. And we understand, you're not going to hit that 100% of the time, but the most you can kind of put that into your best practices, your email procedures and operations. Make sure you're going out, get a fresh list every time you can. It's always available on the APWA website, and as up to date as we can have it there, it's always available to our chapters.
So I think get personal and know your audience kind of go hand in hand. So getting personal, maybe in a subject line you could include the name of the person you're sending your email to. Or say if you have an upcoming conference and you want to say, hey, all you conference attendees, like make sure that when the person's receiving that email, they feel like it's for them and they want to click on it and read the information that they feel like is targeted towards them. Make sure you're taking the time to know who you're sending your email to and for what event, what information you need to be including, and, could I add a name? What else could I do to specify and differentiate a specific email versus another group of people you might want to be targeting?
Yeah, a perfect example is you're going to likely communicate to your YPs, your young professionals, a lot differently than you would just your general, chapter membership. If you've got a young professional happy hour or something like that, you're probably going to communicate that a little bit differently than, a chapter conference. So kind of keep in mind who it is that you're talking to. That next bullet point is clear and concise CTAs. So CTAs is shorthand for call to action. Every single email that you send out, it should have a purpose, and that purpose is our call to action. So you don't want to leave it in the hands of ambiguity, the receiver of that email to determine what to do next after reading your email. We want to be clear, concise, give them exact direction on what it is that you want them to do. Do you want them to go to your website? Do you want them to sign up for something? Do you want them to register for an event? What is that? Be very clear, be very concise, and repeat it, early and often is the saying. Put it in your subject line. If it doesn't fit in your subject line, put it in your email header. If it doesn't put it in your email header, put it in the first line of text. And then always recall it and repeat it at the end of your email. The very last thing that reader sees should be you asking them to do something or giving them the direction on what it is that you want them to do next after reading your email.
Being relevant and timely is very important in your communication. So, for example, if you just finished up a conference and you want to say thank you to everyone who attended the conference, here's kind of a follow-up. You want to make sure you're doing that in a timely manner. I would suggest 2 to 3 days max after the event. Or if you're offering an early bird special on an upcoming event, make sure you're getting it out in time so they can go on and register. Just make sure that you're giving your members or whoever you're reaching out to enough time to process the email and, if they want to recap on what just recently happened, such as a conference, get that out in a timely manner so they're not getting it a week or two later and they have forgotten, what they learned or what they talked about.
Yeah, and a lot of that is pre-planning. It's great to be able to capitalize right after a conference or an event, but sometimes you got to think a little bit ahead of time. Get those emails ready to go, get them pre-approved, pre-approved. Whoever needs to have eyes on it, do that ahead of time, and you're already one step ahead of the game. And it can make your turnaround times a lot quicker. These next two items kind of go hand in hand, and I'll talk about both of them. But it's really important to really make sure you have a process in place to edit and proofread your emails. The very first thing that my boss told me when I first started here at APWA, he asked me to write an email, and I brought it to him, and he said, "All right, you think that's a good email?" I said, "Yep, absolutely. This is people are gonna love this." And he said, "Now go cut it in half." And my my eyes got wide, and I said, "Oh boy, did I get into the right business here?" But he was right. With email communications, the goal isn't to tell every single thing about the thing that you're trying to communicate. You want to drive people out to your website or to your social media platforms or to a registration page or an application that has all that information out there. You need to tell them what it is that's the important piece or what they're getting out of following your call to action. Be short, be sweet, but be very diligent in your editing and proofreading. And that diligence really carries over to that next bullet point, testing. Every single email platform that you use will have a testing feature where you can send a draft of your exact email, have it show up in your inbox. What you saw on your screen, does it show up the same way on your inbox? If not, go back and tweak. Send it to a personal email, whether it's like a Gmail or a Yahoo or AOL. Does anybody have AOL anymore? How do, I hear the young person on the other end laughing there as I say AOL.
I used
But
to have an
test it.
AOL.
There you go. See, AOL's still around, kicking somewhere. But
Somewhere.
test it in every kind of inbox you can, in multiple inboxes. A lot of times, email platforms will have slight variances. So it might show up one way in Gmail and another way entirely in Outlook. Then you'll need to look at where you might need to make adjustments or how you can cut down on wherever that difference is. If it's an image being resized funky or your text is wrapping around to multiple lines when you only want it on one line, maybe you just need to reword it to make sure it's showing up properly in all the inboxes. But test, test, test. Just as much time as you spend on your subject line, you should spend on testing, making sure that it looks how you want it to look when it shows up in people's inboxes. And then I think Abigail, if you'd like to kind of give us a little blow by blow on measuring the results and the
Oh,
importance of
sorry
that.
about that. I had turned the page. Measure your results. So make sure you know what's working. I mean, I think that's so important because you're putting all this work into, whether it be social media posts or email blasts, and you want to know what's working for your members and what's not working. So a lot of these email softwares and social media tools will allow you to look back and see, how many people you reached, who clicked, who opened, what was ignored or spammed. And so I think by keeping up with that, you'll know where to go moving forward. And a lot of the time that means testing the subject line. I know that our tool here at APWA, we're able to test. We run an A/B testing where we can see subject line A versus subject line B. So we might try for a longer subject line and a shorter one and see which works best. And after the conference or the event or whatever we're sending the email for, we can look back and say, okay, our members really responded to this particular email. What did we do right here? What can we take and move forward? And that goes for social media too. We like to see what our followers and our members like us to put out there and what resources and news and information they're sharing or they're liking or commenting on. So I think, measuring your results, that's a huge one.
Yeah, and you really hit it on the head there, Abigail. Is the biggest part. We can measure the results. Everybody can have all the analytics they want. But if you're not using those to inform your decisions and get better at what you're doing, then really it's kind of being lost. It's just data. at that point. It doesn't mean anything, and it's not being used, to your best advantage. So take everything that you can find and everything you can determine from those measurements, and really use it to help inform that next email that you put together, that next campaign you put together. All right. Um, Rounding up here on email, APWA resources. Obviously, you've got your own tools and your own resources that you use, at your own chapter. But there are a lot of resources that we offer here at APWA. I want to make sure that you guys know about them and you're aware about them. We talked a little bit about chapter lists before. There's always up-to-date lists there. Every time you send out an email, go out and get one of those, download it, and upload it to your preferred email tool. The APWA email sender email tool, that is also in the chapter leader resources area. It's available to all of our chapters. It is not the most robust tool. It's fairly non-HTML, not tons of graphics and videos and different templates and things of that nature, but it is simple and easy to use. So if you've got a simple message from a chapter leader, a chapter president, or your chapter administrator or something that you need to get it out there, maybe it's time sensitive, that is a great tool that's always available to you on our website. If you've got questions as you go through that, or never used it, you're welcome to reach out to us. Our membership department, or even our web services team can help you kind of get lined out how to use that thing, and what maybe it's best to use it for. And lastly, the APWA Nationals graphic design team. We've got some really great graphic design professionals on staff here at APWA National. We are always happy to help, whether it's just consulting or advice, or hey, is this in line with APWA brand standards, or do you have any idea on how I could do this better, or what can I do to make this look better? We can help with logos. We can help you with ads. Chances are, if you need an ad to drop into an email or one of your newsletters or anything like that, we've already got it. We can likely resize it for you, get it in the exact size and specs that you need, and shoot it off to you within that same day. But we're happy to work with all of our chapters. As I said, we are awesome. Our folks that are on our graphic design team, they are quick. They're really good at what they do. Almost everything you see from APWA National visually, whether it's on the website all the way through your communications and your emails and social media, that's likely gone through them. So they have a really good feel for our brand and what looks good in people's inboxes.
Yeah, and so outside of the APWA resources that we help provide, there are a number of email templates and campaigns and tools out there to use, and you might be kind of overwhelmed thinking, where do I start? Which one should I look at? So we've provided you with this link, and it goes over 10 free email marketing software tools, and it kind of summarizes each and provides some ratings and reviews, pros and cons, and kind of can help you weed out the bad and the good ones out there, and just give you some ideas of what your organization might be looking for.
Yeah, and there is, man, 500,000 more, email platforms out there that every chapter could use to send out emails. And for every one of those, there's probably 10 different blogs or articles talking about what's the best ones, giving you their top 10. This is just an example. Go out and do a Google search, but this is just one of the examples that we saw that was the most easily digestible, I guess I would say. It's very clean and concise and consistent throughout all of the 10 different softwares that they provide a look into. They really kind of give user ratings, their own reviews, those summaries and pros and cons, and you'll see those across the board for every single one in a consistent manner that really kind of gives you a heads-up display on how to really look at all of those and see what might be best for what your chapter is doing. So the next item you might ask is, okay, I've got an email platform, I've got kind of these best practices in mind. I don't know how to put the actual email together and make it look cool, make it look good. Fear not. Every single platform, just about, I've yet to encounter one. But every single one that I know of that I've really kind of done a deep dive into, they offer templates for you. They've got them laid out, whether it's an e-newsletter or a chapter event or anything like that, they've probably got a template out there that is ready made for you just to pick up and start typing in your copy and drop in an image anywhere you want and be ready to go. So don't worry about that. I would encourage you, as you're kind of eyeing which chapter, which solution and email platform to jump on with, make sure you take a look at their templates too. Chances are you can look at those without being a member or without joining. You can get a look and feel for kind of what their style is. Maybe one fits your chapter or the communications that you're sending out better than another. But pretty much all of them have great templates available to you.
And if any of you out there are not graphically and designer gifted, I know I'm not, Canva is a great resource. It's an easy to use, super user friendly graphic design website with photos and fonts and templates, and they provide custom graphics, and it's a great source for custom email banners if you want to really, wow your members and get them to click on your email. There are some great email banner options out there, and web and print media. It's a great source if you need a user-friendly design software. This is Canvas for you.
Yeah, and we're really getting into the stuff that we love here at APWA National. This is the fun stuff. Once you settled on that email platform and kind of have a set look at what you're doing and what you want to do and how you're going to do it, now this is all the fun stuff. This is where Canva's great. They've got uh, millions of stock photography available to you, tons of public work stuff. You can add your own text and copy and ready-made templates for those infographics that are shiny that you might want to add to your web page for a chapter chapter conference recap or anything like that. But it is ready-made out there. Anything you're trying to communicate, chances are it's already been done before. Canva's a great kind of repository for that, where it's got a lot of information out there, lots of ready-made stuff for you to kind of go out and just kind of fill in the blanks. It's really cool. Our next item here is Adobe Spark. Some of you might be familiar with that on the social media side. Adobe Spark is kind of a 3-tool resource from Adobe, the same people that bring you InDesign and Photoshop and everything else, Adobe Premiere if you're creating videos, things like that. But this is really a super simple, easy to use resource for anybody. They have 3 different options. It's a free account that you can create, but they allow you to create a post. A post is just that. It is just an image with text overlaid on top of it. And you see on the example on the screen up here, they've got a Facebook post up there, and they've got a little quote there over a picture of the galaxy. That's a great example. You can upload your own image if you've got like a public works focused image or something like that, or you've got something that you want to share on social media or in an email that you want to type over maybe the name of a webinar over stock photography. Your webinar is about bridges. You want to put the title of that webinar and the time and location over a stock image of a bridge. It's in there. You can go in there. It'll do it for you right away. That middle option is called a Spark page. So think of Spark page as just a very simple web page. I'm sure we all are familiar with those really beautiful scrolling kind of half animated web pages that a lot of the newer businesses we might see if you've gone out to apple.com or any of those other kind of high tech Silicon Valley websites. You've probably seen them. As soon as you land on one, you kind of know what I'm talking about. But this is just as simple as creating a PowerPoint. Literally, you can take any kind of images you want, drag and drop in a kind of a linear fashion from top to bottom, or you can go left to right. But then you can overlay text. It could be as simple as having big splash images with just one line of text kind of written over it, or if you've got a whole paragraph, if you're doing a bio on a new chapter president or something like that, you can have a picture of them, scroll down and multiple paragraphs as much as you want. It's really flexible, but it's basically a free web page that you can build that is housed on the Adobe ecosystem, and all you have to do is link to it. So very easy to use. If you're proficient with PowerPoint, you're already proficient with Adobe Spark. So And then the other option there is Spark Video. Same kind of thing as putting together those PowerPoints or putting together the Spark page. You can drop in any kind of images you want or select from their pre-done or their pre-selected images and stock images or even stock animations. Overlay your text and add some music that they've got a big catalog for you to choose from on. And boom, you've got a great video to be able to share on those emails or share on social media or share anywhere else you'd like to do it.
And here we've provided some stock photography resources. So this is a great list of resources with a lot of public works photos that are available for anyone to use. These images that you can see here were pulled from stock photography. So if you're looking for some public works images, these are your resources to use.
And you buried the lead there, Abigail. What's the best part about all these resources? They're
free.
free. Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly. Everything from Wikipedia to any of those ones listed in those top four, those images that you see at the right, those were pulled from simple public works searches on those resources. So you see kind of an example of those infrastructure heavy, public works heavy images. There's lots of stuff out there for you to use, whether it's in email banners or images to supplement your emails. All right, so this is our last page here on just the resources that are at your disposal. I'm going to kind of go through, this is kind of a list of kind of my favorites that I've used throughout the years. Reallygoodemails.com is maybe the most self-explanatory website URL I've ever heard of, but all it is just a giant database of user-submitted really good emails. They've got it broken down by every category you could ever imagine, whether it's a welcome email, or it's a event email or a fundraising email or a calendar-based email or a drive people to your website email. They've got tons and tons and tons of examples from companies all over the world. The model for this is basically if somebody sees an awesome email and it ends up in their inbox, they forward it and they can upload it into this database and it's there and it's right in front of you. We've gotten some great inspiration for things that we do here at APWA National, or different ways maybe we want to look at laying things out or how we use our language. What are we saying and how are we saying it? There's tons of really good content out there for you to take a peek at. That next item is really a full service tool. So HubSpot, it can actually be your, a company's actual marketing platform if you're very content driven. That doesn't apply necessarily to APWA so much, especially chapters. But what it does do, they've got a great blog that gives you, I know me and Abigail are both signed up for their regular emails. Every week they're sending out a newsletter with maybe templates or tools or new resources that you didn't know about, or something that helps you do your job better. And they've always got tips and tricks. How to shoot video if you don't know what the heck to do on video. They can give you all the tips and tricks, the resources, every tool under the sun. It seems like they cover and they dabble in, and they're really good at breaking it down and make it easy to comprehend. So I would encourage anybody that's interested in that, go out to HubSpot.com, click on the link to their blog, and sign up for their newsletter. It comes once a week, and it's got some really super valuable tools that we use on a day-to-day basis. Infogram and Easily, those next two bullet points, those are very similar. And they're a lot like Canva, actually, now that I think of it. But they are great tools for you to be able to create your own infographics, charts, maps, anything like that. They've got tons of templates out there where instead of having to come up with the design on your own, use somebody else's design. That's great. That's what these tools and resources are for. Just have your data ready. All you got to do is plug them in, and then you're ready to go and use that either on your website or anywhere else, or emails or social media or anywhere.
So we've put together a mini sample campaign for you all. We heard a lot of our members were wanting kind of an example of how we put together an email campaign. So I'm just going to run through some of these emails. So the first email in your chapter conference email campaign, mark your calendar. So make sure that you're coordinating that with what's updated on your website. So get the email out there, kind of introduce the conference, say you're invited, what is it, where is it, when is it, and kind of that who, what, when, where, get it out in front of them so they're able to mark their calendar and they can go to your website to register if need be. And then registration open. So about roughly 3 months out, you'll send a registration open email, again, just allowing them to go onto your website and register and kind of get that information out in front of them at least 3 months in advance if it requires travel or whatever needs to get done before the conference. You want to make sure that they know of all of that. Keynote speakers, so about 2.5 months out, tell them who will be at the conference. Who are they going to see? What are the keynote speakers talking about? What will they be going over? And so just getting them excited for what they can learn at the conference with plenty of time in advance, we would recommend. Same goes for the education sessions. Get that out in 2 months in advance. Get that in front of them so they can kind of plan and they know who they're going to see and what they're going to learn. And then 1.5 months out, talk about the early bird deadline. If they get signed up early enough, they can get a discount. They can get the early bird special. You'll have a lot of people who will want to sign up early to get that, so make sure that's out in front of them in plenty of time. 1 month out, special events. Talk about the different events you'll be offering, the different activities they can participate in, kind of the extras outside of the conference. And then roughly 2 weeks out, a last chance email, like get that early bird deadline, go on and register now, this is your last chance, so that they can get registered for that early bird discount way ahead of time.
Yeah, and this is a great example. You kind of take a look at all that spacing. This is again a sample that can be completely changed around to fit whatever event it is that you're communicating about. This one we chose, a chapter conference as our example, and we chose to send emails out every 2 weeks roughly. Take a look at what it is that your event is, when it's being held, when you're going to have the information for it, and change this around to fit your needs. You can maybe only want to send something out once a month. Maybe you only want to send something out every 3 weeks instead of every 2 weeks, or maybe it's once every week. Really keep it out there in front of them if something's urgent and you got to get them signed up. But take a look at what it is that you want to communicate to them and different things that you want to showcase for that event, and then break it down into topics and try to keep it to one topic per email. Notice we didn't kind of lump the keynote speakers and the education sessions into one email. Break those out. Each of those are warranted, kind of warrant their own communications, their own focus. They're important enough that you're putting effort into it on a chapter level, so it's definitely important enough to show to prospective members the value of each of those efforts. So everything that we've gone through so far obviously is pretty email focused, but a lot of these tools, especially the last 3 or 4 slides, we're going through the different stock photography and template tools and things like that. Those can be used for social media and your website as well. But now we're going to kind of transition and we're going to talk specifically about your website. So most people kind of overlook, a lot like subject lines. Most chapters tend to kind of overlook their chapter website as a communication tool. Most of them just kind of look at it as real estate, right? We know we have a URL out there and we know we've got our banner on it. What you're communicating on that as kind of that first impression when people land on your website is very important. You see on the screen here, this is kind of in marketers lore. Ling's cars is very, very popular. Lots of people that are going through school have seen this when their professor has brought it up. When this page was first built, it was like the worst website in the entire world, and people would start sharing it kind of before becoming viral on social media was even a thing. This became viral. People started sharing this, say, "Can you believe this website? I don't know where to look. It's got so much going on. There's no consistent style. Like, what is going on?" Well, Ling's Cars has kind of leaned into it. They have really kind of bought in, and they basically have gone completely over the top. this website draws millions and millions and millions of people to it every single month, but not for the right reasons, and they know that. This is a great example. If you're looking for something not to do for your chapter website, obviously this would be it. But that's kind of the exact opposite, the exact other extreme, if you will, of what we're striving for on the chapter websites. It's really important for you. As I said before, that website a lot of times is your first impression for people. If they're getting interested in APWA or your chapter specifically, or an event you're holding, chances are they're going to come out to your website at one point or another. And if you got, you know, misaligned photos or really low resolution photos that don't match up or are being stretched, or your headlines don't really communicate anything or aren't saying specifically what your web pages or the carousel feature on the homepage of the APWA chapter websites, what it is that they might be clicking through, you're doing yourself a disservice there. Really, you want to make sure that you're doing everything you can to have clear headlines. Use great photos if you have them available. If you don't have them available to you, use some of those stock photography cues. Reach out to APWA National, see if we have anything or have any thoughts on what might be a good photo to use. Can we resize something or provide you with a custom image or something like that to fit your needs? And the same way we talked about, your emails, your copy is very important. You want to make sure that you're being clear, you're being concise. It doesn't have spelling or grammar errors. You've really gone out and kind of gone over and above to make sure that you're communicating properly through your website, and it's not just a piece of real estate where you archive past information or events. You can really use this to communicate with your members and have it kind of be a rallying point where they visit regularly and get information. So, and that goes to, the same kind of things. Make sure you update and keep it relevant. Keep your calendar information up, and I always recommend make sure you've got some contact information out there. If they've got questions for you, they're probably going to your website first. If they're not on an email list or they're not a member and they've got questions, they're going out to your website. And I can't tell you how many websites just in general, not even just APWA chapter websites, don't have that contact information where it's easy to find and easy to get to. Make sure it's front and center, or at least on your menu structure, where people can, if they've got questions, the first time you can get them on the phone or through an email, that's your first opportunity to bring them on as a member. So take advantage of it.
And social media. Social media is a big one. As you probably know by now, almost everyone's on social media, and members and users use it as a main source of news. And they use it to engage with their chapter or their organization. So I would say if you're using social media, make sure you're really utilizing it to engage with your members and to put out relevant news and calendar events, opportunities, big things that are coming up within your chapter. And I know you may be thinking, which platform should I use? There are so many to choose from. Well, see what your members are using. Twitter is a great source for news. Facebook, you can put a little bit more information into a post. Instagram, it's mostly for pictures. So even reaching out to your membership and saying, hey, where would you like to see us post some relevant information? Like, would you follow us? How would you engage with us? Reach out to your members and try and figure that out. And really, or follow APWA, follow us on Twitter and Facebook and see what we're doing. We like to, put some fun stuff about public works out there, but also use it as a tool to get information in front of our members and to allow them to ask questions easily and to like things and share things with their followers as well. So really, it's a great source for people to engage, and it can really be a positive thing for your chapter, your organization.
Yeah, and I've got just two things to wrap up on social media. So a lot of the questions that I've encountered over the past few years from chapters that aren't on social media yet is what do I post, right? How do I start? What is it that I need to put out here? The best thing I can say is learn by example. There are lots of chapters out there, as well as APWA National, that are already on social media. Go out there, follow them, even if it's from your desktop or your phone. Follow us. Take a look at the type of information that we're posting out there. You'll get a really good feel. If you want to follow APWA National, we'll post all of our stuff, but we also try to repost and share a lot of what our chapters are doing too. So it's kind of a one-stop shop for you. It could be everything from event recaps to those blood drives or community park cleanups or touch a truck events or open houses during National Public Works Week. There's a lot of instances around there, and that is another thing that I'll say is if you're looking for the best place to start your social media endeavor, start it around an event. That you've got ready-made content right in front of you. All you got to do is capture it or share it. If you got a conference going on, snap pictures all around. At the end of the day, post them to Twitter and just throw captions on there. It's a super simple way to start, but it gives people kind of a slice of what they're missing when they're sitting at home and they're looking at your feed. And Abigail, I think you're probably the best one to talk about this. Another option that a lot of our chapters have is, or I guess not options, but questions they have is, I don't have enough time. I don't know a lot about all of these things. It seems like a super big effort. How do I manage all of these social media platforms? And there are lots of really good tools out there. One of which is Hootsuite. There's quite a few other ones out there, but Abigail will kind of tell you what that is and how we use it and what the benefit is.
Yeah, I think that's a big tool for us that we use here at APWA just because we want to keep track of all of our members or users who are reaching out to us with questions or comments or sharing our posts. And so on Hootsuite, we're easily able to have all of our platforms right in front of us, as well as who our users and our members and our followers, and we can see what they're posting and what they're sharing and how they're responding to us. And so yeah, it's great because I can see Twitter and Facebook and LinkedIn and kind of keep track. I'm able to also schedule posts in advance. So if I know I have a busy week and I'm thinking, oh, I got to get this information out about an upcoming conference or an upcoming e-learning event or webinar, I'm going to go ahead and get it scheduled ahead of time. That way it goes out and I don't even have to think about it. So it's a great way to stay organized on social media if you feel overwhelmed or like you might not be able to handle all three platforms you might be using. It's also a great way to easily respond to your members and see how they're engaging with you. So highly recommend Hootsuite. You can also look at analytics, see how many followers you gained that month or how many posts or reposts that one tweet got or Facebook post. So I think it's a great way to stay organized with everything going on each platform. I know it can get kind of hectic.
Yeah, and that's a great point. You can do all that on every single one of those email or the social media platforms. You can go out to Twitter and schedule things and post things and respond to things, and get all the analytics and metrics you care about. You can do the same with Facebook and Instagram and YouTube and LinkedIn and every other one out there. But really, Hootsuite kind of brings it all under one roof, gives you one URL, one website to go to that you can do all of that from. It's a great dashboard, a great tool to really kind of cut down on the clutter and organize. A lot of those social media platforms. You go on there and it's kind of a shotgun blast where everything's coming at you at once, and if you're not familiar with the platforms, you might not really know how to pick through what's directed at you or what's just showing up on your feed. Why is something showing up on your feed? What do I do with it next? Right? So Hootsuite gives you that tool to really kind of wrap everything into one. It's a great starting point. Lots of good metrics and analytics and organization, and it's a great tool. And there's lots of others like it. It's not the only one out there, but it just happens to be the one that APWA National uses for our efforts. I would encourage you to kind of look into those. It can help save a little sanity, but also manage your time and resources a little bit better. And that's it. So our presentation is all done during this period. I think we had about 400 questions that we talked about during our presentation a couple weeks ago at the chapter leadership training. Obviously, we don't have that here with the recorded session, but if you do have questions after taking a look at any of this on any of the resources or stuff we talked about, if you just want to chat about what it is that your chapter is doing, how you might be able to get better, and maybe get some advice or have us weigh in, I encourage you to reach out. Again, my name is Jared Shulhanik, and Abigail Grossman is the other voice that you've heard with me today. Our information, our contact information is up on the APWA website. Reach out to us. We are happy to discuss any and everything communication. That is our job. It's our passion. It's what we love, and we want to make sure we're helping our chapters do everything that they can to get better at it and optimize, what it is that you're doing. We want to make sure that you're creating great experiences for your members. So thank you for your time, and this webinar will be available as a recorded session going forward on the Chapter Leader Resources website, and we'll communicate it in some emails and newsletters. So thank you for your time, and reach out if you've
Thanks,
got questions.
guys.